Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Leave it to the WWE to ruin what should be a festive and special occasion. You would think they would want to go out on a high note, being that this was going to be the very last time we were going to have to stomach being inside the WWE Thunderdome, but they did absolutely nothing. Not only did they do nothing to make that special, they didn't even do anything to get us excited for Money in the Bank this Sunday, which was generally the mission of a go-home show, which they constantly fail at, so much to no one's surprise. We are going to talk about all of that and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare. You are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review and reaction show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
We all came out here tonight to watch this show knowing Monday Night Raw was going to be a complete disaster. What we did not know was that we were going to have to talk about losing another treasured WWE legend, a man that does not get talked about nearly enough when you talk about the golden age of professional wrestling and the whole Hulkamania running wild all over the world. It probably would not have been the same without Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who passed away sadly early Monday due to complications from dementia, was the last news that I had seen pertaining to why the man passed away. He was 71 years old. He had a great wrestling career. If you ask me, without Paul Orndorff, there might not be a Hulk Hogan or Hulkamania to even talk about. Let's get into a little bit of a quick remembrance on Paul Orndorff before we waste our time on Monday Night Raw. Our time is more better spent talking about this man, this legend. Just look at the physique on this freak of nature. He was the first guy, the first heel in the era of Hulkamania that I really thought, man, Hogan's got to watch out for this guy. Nobody was built like him at all, and he was 100% go, 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 full intensity. Nobody was as intense as Paul Orndorff back in the day. I thought this guy was about to pop at a moment's notice. He just looked like he was ready to explode at any minute. He was great. He was a fantastic foil to Hulk Hogan. He played a huge part in the first ever main event of WrestleMania, but I think for me, where he stands out the most was when he was supposedly friends with Hulk Hogan and they were hanging and banging down in Gold's Gym after Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper parted ways, only to have a certain little weasel start whispering in Mr. Wonderful's ear and had him turn on Hulk Hogan, leading to an epic clash at the big event in Toronto, which spiraled throughout 1986. It ended up being voted the feud of the year, Hogan and Orndorff, by the Wrestling Observer newsletter that year. Paul was also the most hated wrestler in the world that year. How much more praise can you get as a heel during the heyday of Hulkamania? Some people just see him as your casual, big man heel that went up against Hogan, but he was the first one that, in my opinion, and probably for dozens or maybe hundreds of fans around the world, thought this was the guy that could take Hogan down. He was a threat, and I thought Hogan had to watch his back. And his intensity and his character would go unmatched until guys like Randy Savage would come around, and even predecessors like the Ultimate Warrior you could attribute to having guys like Orndorff around. Funny story, and I have this rigged up here for you guys because one of the toys I remember having was Mr. Wonderful. Look at how they detailed this guy's physique. Look at that body. It was crazy. And I had multiple Paul Orndorff figures because, people at your birthday, you always ended up getting doubles as a kid. And me, having a little bit of an artistic side, when the Warrior did come around, I said, this is the perfect figure to customize. And I painted the Warrior's little Ultimate Warrior face on my Orndorff doll, and I put little brown strips of clay on the back, and I also tied some little twisty ties, the little garbage bag or sandwich bag ties. Just tied them around his little biceps, and now he had the Warrior fringes. And I was the only kid in my neighborhood that had an Ultimate Warrior LJN rubber doll in 1987, because nobody else was clearly talented enough to pull that off. But I thought this was a blast from the past. When I seen this picture, it immediately triggered that memory, and I have Paul Orndorff to thank for that as well. I was lucky enough to get the chance to meet the legend as he came through House of Glory during one of our events prior to the pandemic, so I'm very grateful for that moment now, as he has unfortunately passed away. God bless you, Mr. Wonderful. You will be missed greatly. You will never be forgotten. My condolences and well wishes to his family, friends, and legions of fans, of which I am. Thank you very much for indulging my fandom of somebody who is very well deserving of it. Now, this is, when you look back at times like that, you see clearly what is the problem with what's going on today, because they just don't build story arcs like they used to. They don't have superstars with the intensity that there was back in that day, and it just doesn't feel the same. It really just doesn't. And when you start off the last episode of Monday Night Raw in the Thunderdome with Xavier Woods beating Bobby Lashley, non-title match of course, but beating Bobby Lashley in order to make us feel like, oh, there might be a chance for Kofi to win on Sunday? That's not cool. We have to talk about this on every show, because they do this on every show. I'm tired of talking about this with you, but how many times are they going to have a champion defeated on broadcast television for no goddamn good reason? You explain that to me. Can any of you hit me up in the comments and explain to me why it is necessary to show a champion be vulnerable before a big title match? I think it makes it even worse that it's only about 6 days before this big championship match. And they did this whole thing with Woods and Kofi versus Lashley. They did it backwards. This all started with a Hell in a Cell match. We should be getting to that Hell in a Cell match now. You should have had Xavier beat Bobby, and then Kofi beat Bobby, and then you do this whole little run, and now you have Bobby get his win back and defend his championship, because Kingston's not going to win Sunday. So what was the point in blemishing the champion? So that you could have him come out in the VIP lounge and shed the dead weight that everybody in the world with 2 working eyes can see is not working for Bobby Lashley? Do we need the prostitutes by his side? No. Do we need to see him drinking champagne and partying in the back? No. But apparently it took him losing to Xavier Woods tonight to come to this conclusion that, hey, I'm being distracted by all this partying we're doing, MVP. Maybe I should get my shit together. That's not a championship frame of mind. And while I do appreciate them resetting Lashley, so to speak, he did on this night look the best he's looked since he's parted ways with the Hurt Business. And I appreciate that, because I don't need to see him and the ladies, and I don't need to see him wasting my time wearing suits and drinking champagne with MVP in the back. I need to see the Almighty kicking some almighty ass and defending the championship in meaningful matches. But I guess we're left to believe that Kofi actually has a chance on Sunday. If you believe that, I think I have a bridge over here in Brooklyn over my shoulder that I could sell to you as well for a very discount price. Talk to me in the DMs if you're interested. That's sarcasm, in case you... I can't sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, okay? I can't. But you understand the sarcasm of the whole situation. I don't understand why we had to have the same exact segment for Jinder Mahal last week for this week. And when you realize the fact that they taped this show the same night that they had Monday Night Raw last week, don't you think Jinder felt silly going out there doing the exact same thing on two separate occasions for two completely different shows? He showed up on his stupid little weird looking bike that doesn't even look like belongs to him. And we had Schmear and Stanky show up, you know, the authors of pain for Jinder Mahal. And this all led to what? This led to Drew McIntyre revealing to everybody, hey, guess what? Jinder didn't steal the real sword. That was a fake sword. I have the real sword. So it doesn't matter that Jinder told the world he broke Drew McIntyre's sword tonight, because it wasn't really his sword. Well, we knew this already because it was actually Vince McMahon's sword. We talked about this last week when Jinder stole the sword to begin with. And this whole fake history of the sword being a McIntyre family heirloom is absolutely ridiculous. We did have Drew's unnecessary history segment tonight as well. Ladies and gentlemen, historical nonsense with Drew McIntyre. Brought to you by Monday Night Raw. This week he wanted to talk to us about Icarus and called himself a dragon or some shit. I don't know. It was more historical nonsense. But he showed up on Raw tonight not to wrestle in a match or do anything interesting. He showed up to break Jinder Mahal's ridiculous toy-looking plastic motorcycle. Did you care? Because I didn't. I didn't care about that any more than I cared about Alexa's Playground. Alexa Bliss showing up, stealing the Fiend's gimmick, doing the Fiend's thing, but now it sucks. And it's weird. And I don't care. And how do you make that even worse? You bring on all Dread Everything, Eva Marie, and Doudrop. And what is the purpose of them being on the playground? Who the fuck knows? But all I know is they said the word Doudrop about 100 times. Alexa was like, Doudrop. And then Doudrop was like, Doudrop. And then Alexa was like, Doudrop. And then Doudrop was like, Doudrop. And then Eva Marie was like, stop. Why am I here? I'm awesome. And all the shit that she likes to say. And then she seemed very upset with Alexa for even having her on the show. They left unceremoniously. And Alexa looked a little sad. Although she giggled and, you know, did the whole I'm a crazy fiend girlfriend thing. I don't know. I don't know. And again, if you could explain to me what the hell's going on and why we're seeing some of this shit, please feel free to let me know. Because I also don't know why this had anything to do with the Fatal 4-Way match we were having. So unnecessary. Nikki S. Almost a superhero. It's the worst thing ever. They're even announcing her as Nikki Cross, almost a superhero. It's not a name. It's a sentence. It shuts my brain down. If you use the acronym, you should pronounce the acronym. So she should be Nikki Ash, not Nikki, almost a superhero. She's being announced that way. It's awful. It's dreadful. I give Nikki Cross a ton of credit for putting herself out there. This was all apparently her idea. But the only reason it got greenlit is because Vince McMahon probably gets a laugh out of it. He sees it as a joke, and let me tell you something else. My wife and I noticed while watching this match, Nikki Cross got in some fantastic shape. And it's being distracted by the goofy getup and the silliness of this angle, and I just don't care. And then you have her pinning Asuka tonight after she lost last week. Naomi was there, in case anybody cared. Nobody really noticed. And then Alexa was part of this match too, but then, you know, Doudrop and Dipshit came out and they interfered, and Doudrop threw Alexa into the crowd, the virtual crowd, for the last time, and then Alexa disappeared. She vanished into thin air. I wish she would have made Eva vanish instead. Or make the whole entire segment of this Fatal 4-Way that I'm watching vanish and do something else. Literally, anything else with these four girls. Because this was just unnecessary and silly. And as soon as they went into the action for Alexa and Eva, they totally ignored anything that was going on with the other girls. But that's because there wasn't anything going on, as apparently they were just standing around watching as well. Silliness! Monday Night Raw. It goes hand in hand. And since we're talking about silliness, let's talk about the Viking Raider, Warrior Raider, Raiders, who are really pissed off about being called hairy barbarians. They're mad that AJ said they're uneducated and that they're salmonella poison-infested people who should have never gotten off their wooden boat. AJ's got some skills on the mic, and he said some silly things that probably made Vince laugh in the back. Ha ha ha! Hairy barbarians done! Hairy barbarians! So funny! Somebody promote that writer that wrote that line. That was you, boss. Oh, that's right. Give me a promotion. Hairy barbarians. Salmonella poisons. Ha 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 ha. I'm so funny. You're so full of yourself. It's ridiculous. Just more unnecessary shit. Originally, Monday Night Raw had scheduled a tag team championship match. AJ and Omos defending against the Warrior Raider Raiders. But they decided to move that to the Money in the Bank show on Sunday. Rightfully so. Title matches should happen on pay-per-views, not on go-home shows. But they just broke this down into dueling interview segments and then back-to-back singles matches where they 50-50 booked this into completely uninteresting territory. And when you take into account that Ivar, now this is no knock on him, he's a talented pro wrestler, probably, not on the level of an AJ Styles, a multiple-time world champion everywhere he steps his feet to the ground. There's no way in my mind that it makes sense to have Ivar beating AJ Styles in less than 5 minutes, regardless of any outside interference or any shenanigans going on. That's just something that my brain feels like shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. And then we have the follow-up match. We have Eric versus Omos in his debut, his first match on Raw, where he showed the world exactly what we all already knew, which is that Omos is going to be nothing more than just another giant body. He's an attraction just based off of how tall he is. He's the Giant Gonzalez all over again. The guy's just doing bear hugs, doing the basic big guy shtick. There's nothing special so far about him from what I see in the ring. That's not to say that he's not developing and maybe he's getting better, but they're certainly not allowing him just yet to show the world what he could do, if he could do better than what we've seen here on Raw. Another less than 5-minute match. This time, Omos, part of the tag team champions, wins one back for his team. Again, 50-50, so nobody gets an advantage, and we're exactly where we started this thing. Exactly where we left it. In an endless circle we go. Sheamus continues to dress up like Baron Zemo. Now he's dropped the gimmick of the hat and the silly, speakeasy outfit. And now he's got, this Baron Zemo jacket. Now he's got this really weird, cool-looking supervillain mask on to protect his broken nose, thanks to Humberto Carrillo. He shows up. He's all upset that he's got to defend his title, but, that's in the contract. They decide to use that every once in a while. Oh, it's been 30 days. You haven't defended your title. That's a rule we use sometimes. We're going to pull that out of our ass right now, so you better get ready to fight tonight. And so, to give himself the decided advantage, he beat the shit out of Humberto Carrillo prior to their match backstage. And who just happens to casually walk by? Damian Priest, planting the seeds for what's to come next for the United States champion. And that part of this whole thing is completely okay with me. What's not okay is having to see Sheamus versus Humberto again. What was the point in further embarrassing this kid by having him go out for another chance at the United States Championship and being beaten in 15 seconds? What was the purpose of that? Just so Sheamus could continue to beat him up? So that Damian Priest can come down and make the save and set up the feud? You already set up the feud in the previous segment. The match was overkill. All you had to do was have Sheamus continue to beat him down in the back when he began it until Damian Priest broke it up. Instead of just casually walking by like, oh, hey, what's going on here? What did I miss? Silliness. Unnecessary. And while I'm glad they finally remembered to do something with Sheamus, just because his nose is broken doesn't mean he can't cut a promo or do something interesting to, keep the United States Championship on TV. This was not the way I like to see Sheamus use. He won with a bro kick, one kick, match over. Now he's going to move on to Damian Priest. Let's hope that's given the respect it deserves. Damian Priest is fantastic. He hasn't really been able to show it since coming to the main roster, which is the case with most people on NXT, then when they come up from NXT. But Sheamus on his own has been putting on some of the best matches all year long, consistently, regardless who's across the ring from him. So now that he's got some real heavy-duty opposition, that should be a series to watch. I just hope they don't run it into the ground in 3 weeks' time. Let's take our time and do something special with this, and maybe by the time SummerSlam comes around, Damian Priest unseats Sheamus and becomes a new United States champion. That's where I would go. Hopefully that's the plan, now that the fans are coming back. Hopefully that's the direction we're going to take things. I want to see more stuff like that and less stuff like what's going on with Ricochet and Matt Riddle. Riddle me this, my friends. Riddle me this. Why the fuck does Matt Riddle think Toy Story 2 is a Western? Just because Woody's a cowboy? And there's other cowboys in it? I mean, maybe, if you want to stretch it, maybe it's a Western because there's a lot of Western-themed toys in it, but at the end of the day, it's a modern movie about toys that come to life. I'll give him a pass, being, that was the Toy Story where they introduced Jessie and Stinky Pete and all that shit. And we had to go back to Woody's Roundup and learn his history. And we're talking about Toy Story 2 here because of fucking Matt Riddle. Thanks, Matt Riddle. Thanks. This is a wrestling channel. We shouldn't be talking about Toy Story 2. Although I do fucking love the Toy Story franchise. Fantastic stuff. Way better than what we get to watch on Monday night on a weekly basis. Anyway, this was all just nonsense. Matt Riddle and Ricochet with silly nonsense comedy back and forth. They ran into The Miz and Johnny Drip Drip in the back. They sprayed them with their drip sticks and then ran over Matt Riddle's toe. This was all to set up the Falls Count Anywhere match where Ricochet defeats John Morrison, getting his win, because we got to keep everything 50-50. The first match, they had a double count out. The second match went to Morrison. The third match went to Ricochet. So who gets over? Nobody. As fucking usual. And I was very disappointed. Now, these technically are not the two right superstars to do this scenario I'm about to tell you guys. But they had the balls to book a Falls Count Anywhere match on the final show in the Thunderdome. But they didn't have the balls to make it the main event and let Ricochet and John Morrison tear the place up a little bit. Maybe break down some of the LED boards, throw each other's bodies into the fans, bust down some of the stage or something, break up the tables on the outside, beat the hell out of the Thunderdome. Go out with a bang instead of a silent fart, which is what we got instead. Although this was a very entertaining match, I would have appreciated it a lot more if I had not had seen this match 2 times already in the previous 2 weeks, making it the third time we are going to get this rematch on Monday Night Raw. So that took away from it. And again, not that I'm trying to say Ricochet or John Morrison are bad, because they are both fantastic and they did some great stuff in this match, but I would have appreciated it more if more of the great stuff they tried to pull off in this match actually landed correctly and looked like it did some damage. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to pinpoint the specific spots. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, go back and watch it. There are some painfully obvious missed spots that were sold as if they were hit. And that kind of stuff just gets to me. I don't blame the guys. It's instinctual. That's the spot you're supposed to fall. I get it. So you're going to do it. But, they both have a very similar style. And it's very fast-paced, very flippy, very parkour-based. So it's hard to land some of those things. And as impressive as it was, you could see that very clearly in this matchup. And this was a fun match, and it went down and had a great finish where Ricochet did a flying body splash on top of John Morrison, busting through a ladder that he had positioned between the ring and the announce table to finally get the 3 count. There was one other interesting spot where Ricochet used The Miz to do some interesting offense. There was the typical Johnny Drip Drip spot, and then there was Matt Riddle coming down to get involved as well. It was a bunch of that shenanigans too, which was unnecessary because all you needed was Ricochet and John Morrison out there kicking ass, which they did a really good job of. And I was entertained for the most part, which was hard to do when this is the 3rd time in 3 weeks I'm watching the same match. Then they had to set up the Raw Women's Championship match for tonight for some reason why we had to have this, I don't know. But we just had another repeat where Natty was in the back, hyping up her match with Rhea Ripley tonight, talking to Tamina, and then announcing very casually that she's going to be in Money in the Bank. I guess they just placed her there like they do on SmackDown. They just place their women in matches. Nobody earns anything there. Interesting that she's only one half of the tag team champions for the women, but now she's going to be in this. I don't know. Does it make sense to you? Because it doesn't make sense to me. I could very easily live without this. But this was just to have Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke do what they do, which is, have their shenanigans go on. This is another repeat segment where they just continue to do the same shit they do week after week. There was a little confrontation between the two teams, and then Natty went out to have her match with Rhea Ripley. Now, this was a surprisingly good match. And I shouldn't be surprised because Natty's a pro. And if anybody's going to pull a good match out of some of these girls, it's going to be Natalya. That's what veteran status does. And Natty made Rhea look very good in this match. Better than I've seen her on Monday Night Raw or since she's been called up to the main roster. The sad thing is that just by the mere booking of this match, you have another situation where the WWE just can't help themselves, and no matter who wins, a champion is going to be pinned in the main event match of Monday Night Raw. And is that not wrong to you guys? Because it's totally wrong to me. Regardless of the fact that it was Natalya that got beat, which everybody knew was coming. Rhea Ripley with a clean victory over Natalya, only to lead to Charlotte Flair coming out, working over the champion, chop blocking Rhea Ripley after the match, putting her in the figure 4 while hanging off the side of the ring, adding a little extra to that move, as Bret Hart used to do it around the pole, but doing it off the side of the apron adds the leverage to give it a little bit extra pain, and that was the end of that. After the break, we came back and Charlotte said that was a preview of Sunday. And she said it's not about the pieces in the game, but it's about the player. And she learned from the dirtiest player in the game, playing off her old man once again. And then says it was game over for Ripley at Money in the Bank, ripping off Triple H in the process as well. And then we had the final segment of the night, the MVP VIP Lounge, where the almighty Milk Dud champion came to his senses and once again became the almighty Bobby Lashley. We talked about this at the start of the show. Lashley says he appreciates everything MVP has done for him, but the bullshit, meaning the VIP Lounge, the women, the champagne, it all has to come to an end right now. MVP very convincingly frightened in this moment as he nodded in agreement with the champ. Lashley wants to destroy everyone who's challenged him for his championship, and then started to beat up everything in the lounge. He threw the couches around, he threw all the furniture around, and he was very convincing here, and I really was getting into it. But again, it's leading to a match that I feel still is very predictable, as Bobby Lashley shouldn't be losing this match on Sunday, regardless of how you feel about Kofi Kingston. Lashley then goes on to very sternly warn Kofi Kingston that he's going to tear him in half. He guarantees he's going to retain his champion and hopes Kofi will bring his family and friends so that they can watch as he dismantles him. Lashley wants to cave Kofi Kingston's face in this Sunday at Money in the Bank and promises to end his career in one of the best segments Bobby Lashley has ever had to close what was, for the most part, another uneventful and underused, as far as talent's concerned, Monday Night Raw. Props to Ricochet and John Morrison for a great effort tonight. Everybody that went in the ring tonight, I guess, is getting ready for the return of the fans. One of the saddest things about Monday Night Raw is that to hype next week's Monday Night Raw episode with the return of the live audience, the only thing they had to announce is the return of the live audience. You would think they would want to give the people that are coming to Monday Night Raw something to be excited about, but we didn't have any significant match announcements. I guess we're going to have to see what happens this Sunday at Money in the Bank. But we got one last stop where the fans will finally return to SmackDown. And I just think it's great that the best thing to happen to wrestling, to the WWE for the most part, in 2021, as a whole, when we look back at this year, the best moment in wrestling is going to be our return to the arenas. Our returns to WWE live events. Just like when I return to Madison Square Garden when SmackDown comes to New York this September. I got my ticket. I'm locked. I'm loaded. I'm in. It's history making. WWE's first step back into New York post-pandemic, back in Madison Square Garden. I cannot wait to go there. It's going to be great. And I'm glad that it's not Raw doing it first. I'm so relieved that it was SmackDown. It's going to be so much easier and probably going to be a much better time. I'll be ready for a good time that night, and I hope you guys catch me on screen. I got a pretty decent seat, man. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get some airtime. I'm not that close, but I'm close enough. We'll have to wait and see. Hope to see some of you guys. If you're in the New York area and you're going to SmackDown, make sure you let me know, and maybe we could meet up before the show. It's just great to me that that's going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, wrestling story of the year. Right now, it's Aleister Black going to AEW, but once the fans come back and you feel that difference, remember how WrestleMania felt, man? It's going to be back like that. And I hope the fans that do show up get rowdy. Show up and get ready to voice your opinions and let the masses be heard. It's going to be something great. Hopefully Money in the Bank is easy to get through this Sunday. And I will see you Sunday night for that review. Thank you all so very much for joining me once again on another Sledgehammer Wrestling Show review. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed yourself here and had a good time tonight, so that you will always be notified every time a video drops on this channel, just like it will this Friday on the Go Home show for SmackDown, leading up to Money in the Bank this Sunday. Hit that like button if I made you laugh, if I made you cry, if you like Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, or any other number of reasons why you might have enjoyed this show. Smash that thumbs up with your sledgehammers at home. And then share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need a place to come and vent their wrestling frustrations as the fans get ready to rumble live in attendance. Can't wait to see you guys there. That's going to do it. If you guys missed anything else, they'll be up in the annotations up above. That's it, everybody. We are out of here. We will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. And as always,
Thanks, Vince. Oh.